Welcome back, team, and happy weekend. It is time for the weekend review. It is the first of the month, February 1st, and it's time to put up some profits for a fresh new month. So we're going to get right into it. But before I do, I wanted to remind you guys of one thing. I still have the 30 days free for the trade plans. If you check the link in this post, just put your email in the landing page and I will get you activated. This is not going to last long. I expected to have it taken down already. The only reason it's still there is because I ran out of time to do it this week. So it will probably be gone this week, so take advantage of it while you can. Guys are making tons of money on this, and you should not miss out. These trade plans are super juicy. I mean, talk about to the T. So if you want a real professional trade plan by a real professional trader, check it out, and I will take care of you. So now, let's get right into it. We're going to touch on a couple of things. I'm going to talk about Bitcoin real fast, SPX, and then we're going to get into ES. This could be a really interesting week. We have some serious geopolitical things in the works right now. We've got Trump tariffs. He put tariffs on Mexico and China. We've got Bitcoin falling like a stone. And we've got a new Fed chair nominated who is a little bit more hawkish, which means he is wanting to bring the dollar back up, but yet the dollar is getting beat down, but we've had a serious rebound. We've got gold and silver have pulled back massive on Friday. Silver pulled back 40%, and it has just been a very interesting start of the year. So let's get right into it. As we're coming into a new month, it is time to really get our focus on and make some serious profits. So come on, check it out. Let's get into it. As promised, I wanted to start with Bitcoin, and not because of any reason other than Bitcoin is a serious lead for the indices. This is a high-risk asset, as are the indices. And indices are still considered risk assets as well as stocks. So crypto, however, being the most volatile, usually ends up seeing the fruits of either the pullback or the bull market sooner than the indices. And right now, this thing is down substantially this week. We are coming into a very large buy spot down here, which was a massive accumulation phase, which lasted for almost 6 or 8 months here. And this was a awesome spot to get long as it propelled us to all-time highs. Now, as we're coming down, we're coming into this buy spot right around 70,500, with our first prime buy being at 71,250, call it. We also have buy areas all the way down to 62,800, call it 63,000, but this whole area could be a potential nice long-term buy. But again, the reason I'm pointing this out to you is simply because this thing is getting nailed, and the indices tend to follow, and they tend to follow about 2 weeks to a month behind. Now, we know the indices have been pushing all-time highs for some time, but Bitcoin, which is a risk asset, is currently risk off, which means investors and traders alone are selling this thing. And if they're selling this, then stocks could be potentially the next to come. We don't know that for sure, but history tends to not necessarily repeat itself, but it does rhyme from time to time. So that's enough about Bitcoin. I'll cover that in another topic. I just wanted to show you what the lead was doing, and let's get right into SPX. SPX is also currently in an interesting situation. In deferring to the process, this still is very much to the upside. Right now, we are very much still in this leg up right here, and we have not lost on the daily or the weekly time frame. Given my current process, it tells me that I should still be looking for longs, as we have not lost on the daily or the weekly, but I am being cautious. And the reason for that, obviously, is what I'm seeing not only in the news, but also Bitcoin as well, has my antennas up a little bit. So I wanted to show you guys exactly what I'm looking for in terms of being above or below, and what's untested and what we should be looking for, okay? So right now in this current move here, let me show you for SPX. On Friday, we were sandwiched between this daily here at 69.45 and the lower at 69.01. Our highest, which was the gap fill, was the weekly at 69.66. We kind of sat in here and bounced around in this 60-point range, which was actually a pretty good sized range, but it sure didn't feel like it on Friday. It was a little slow. However, the 69.66 is technically untested, but in order to move up here, SPX would need to move above 69.45 to make that happen. I am not as concerned about this playing on first touch, because this got the reaction that we were looking for to take us down. But the level that I am looking at right now is 69.77. This is an untested daily and 4-hour. Now, I know I just told you that the daily level has not lost support, and so normally I wouldn't, be signaling this as much, but this is an untested 4-hour as well, and the 4-hour certainly has lost. If this plays at 69.77, we want to look for continuation back below the 69.66 for potential continuation much lower. However, if they push above this, we still have the untested daily at 7,002, which at that point, I would not be ultimately concerned about a massive pullback, and I would look for a pullback potentially into 69.77 for the next move up. Okay, but if we cannot get above this area, she is in some serious trouble, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to use 69.45 as our midpoints above below, and for the lower range, 69.01 for the midpoint above below. Okay, nice little range here. Be good for you guys. Now, the one level that I am keeping track of right now, actually two levels, we have an untested 4-hour at 68.8279. I can definitely see them coming down and playing this and potentially holding. We want to see them get back above 69.01 for some continuation, and then obviously this is going to be our big deal here, okay, at 69.45. The other end of the spectrum, or the possible play here, is a sweep below this low into the 68.65 4-hour. We reclaim the low at 68.70 and we start to squeeze back up. That is really the only other trade that I have. Now, we do have some areas lower here that is still contained within this massive large leg. And just looking at this, I can look and say, you know what, this looks all right. This looks like it has something in there. And I can argue that that's true. However, from a process perspective, this area has been tested on the higher time frame already. Pulling it back into the lower, it doesn't seem like it, but based on my process, it has. Now, if you come down in here and we hold, we would want to see them hold 68.45 to 68.34 for our progression higher once again. Underneath this, she's got some problems and she can come down quite significantly. So that's it for SPX. I've given you a nice range there, a couple 100 points. Let's go ahead and get into ES and talk about what's cooking over here in our babe. As usual, starting with the market profile, you guys can see that we actually settled right here on Friday, bringing us right back into this massive balance range. Actually, let me tighten this up a little bit. It's bringing us right back into this massive range here of value, which has been for over 4 weeks. They sat sideways. We pulled back slightly, came into this massive composite area here, and then again last week, we just kind of settled right here. And as you can see, our values are all overlapping. This makes it really difficult to pick which direction that we're going to go, but my process still points to up, only because we have not lost on the daily or weekly time frame. However, I do want to be cognizant of what's happening both geopolitically and what's happening with Bitcoin, and that's why it's important for us to understand what we're above below, and knowing that if we get below certain areas that we could shift momentum in the favor of the bears. Okay, so technically we want to be above the previous weekly value area high to push up. You see this massive ledge here. It's a big spot, and really below the 69.48 previous weekly value area low, but really it's even more so below that. As we get below, we really want it on this particular moment here for last week's range. We start to get weak underneath 69.40. Right, so the previous weekly value area low is 48, but really underneath 40, things start to tip to the downside, and I'm going to show you why. So let's go ahead and get into the daily charts. And when I bring up the 4-hour, I think it's going to bring up a really nice picture for you guys. So here's our weekly time frame, guys. We are still technically trending up, as you can see, but we stopped closing above the previous all-time high, and I'll just show you what I mean by that. As we continue to leg up, we come up. This is our previous leg down. We have a nice little close above here, and then we continue our progression higher, a nice close. We pull back, we close higher, and then we start to pull back, and we can't close higher. Then we pull back again, and we try to push our way up. We made new all-time highs, but we couldn't even close above the weeklies from 2 and 4 weeks ago, or 3 and 4 weeks ago, which is a sign of potential weakness. But again, like I said, right now, technically speaking, we haven't lost. But I don't want to be, how should I say, ignorant to the fact that it all has to happen somewhere, and I'm starting to see some weakness form. And without getting into VIX, as you guys know, we've been pushing over this massive weekly pivot and weekly monthly pivot in VIX. Actually, just let me pull it over. I wasn't even planning on doing it, but let me show you right now. We're going to keep a really close eye on VIX because this monthly weekly pivot at 1750 is really going to make all the difference for us. If this thing catches a bid, we can really go higher. Right now our next untested spot's around $20, $20.09, but I got to tell you, this thing's looking pretty aggressive, and if it wants to pop and it gets above, it holds above 1750 area, this thing's going to rip, which will send the indices back down farther. Getting into the daily time frame, you'll see here on the RTH chart, we are still continuing to move up as of right now. This is our massive leg up, and we made a new all-time high. However, look at this close here. This was not higher than the previous all-time high, and we have not been able to close higher than the previous all-time high for many days. We are now back underneath the support here and struggling to move higher. On Thursday, we played the weekly at 69.03, which was my signature play that we called out perfectly in the trade plan. Popped us for 100 points. Amazing. And they still couldn't get the solid close that they needed. Right now, for me, I do truly believe this is struggling. But with that being said, we are still pointed up. My process points up, but my antennas are flaring and I am being cautious. And the reason for that is, looking at this chart, you guys know for untested levels, my color is pink for daily levels and purple for weekly levels, and we've got none of that in here. Everything is red, meaning it is tested, but very important to be above or below. And as we know, right now there is none of that. And so think about it like this. Our edge is in the edges. I've said it 1,000 times. And right now we have no untested support here. So what we're going to be looking for right now is, if we come higher, we have some untested 4-hour levels that I'll show you, but really we need to get above 69.89 to continue our progression higher, to bring us into the weekly at 04, to bring us all the way up here to the 722 leg down. If we do get above 67.89, there is a high probability we will push into this 22 area. However, if they cannot get up here and breach this area, we really have a problem, and we could see lower, because if you can't move higher, you got to move lower and find new buyers. And even off of this weekly with a 100-point pop, they still cannot make it happen, which is a big indicator that we have some serious weakness going on right now for this current leg up. Okay, so looking at this right now, you guys know, based on the trade plans that we have played, we have the 69.12 that we have been using for above below, and our massive weekly at 03. I've said 100 times in the room and on the trade plans that as long as we stay above 03, we are still bullish. However, this area is massively tested. Okay, so right now we're going to see serious weakness under 69.12 and ultimately 03. That takes us down into our big daily and weekly level that is our previous weekly leg down. And look what that says, bad below. That is for a real reason, ladies and gentlemen. Underneath the 68.80, we shift momentum hard in the favor of the bears. There is one level down here, a 4-hour level, which I will show you, that could potentially give us a nice little pop, and we would want to see a reclaim of this 83 level, which we'll get into soon. But ultimately, as long as we hold below the 03 and really the 83 or 80 level, whatever you want to call it, we have some serious momentum to the downside. And this technically is the leg to the all-time high. We could come down here and play the 67.94.50, which in my opinion is a fantastic high probability level, and I'll be looking to play that. However, if they do continue to move lower than that, after we get the reaction from here, because I am fairly certain this will play for a reaction, it might play to 68.39 and then pull back. But if it does and we sweep the lows here, we have a monster daily at 67.65 and a weekly at 67.61. We would want to see this play and get back above this pivot around 67.75 and squeeze higher and get back above our leg at 94 to look for some real progression up that could take us into the 39, depending on if it's tested, but ultimately back into our 83, which would be almost a trade for damn near about 80 points, which would be super solid, and we might be able to squeeze 100 out of that. You never know. So we do have some levels that are slightly lower, which I'll show you just in case, because we never know what the week's going to bring. But one of my last dailies that I would be really excited about buying is the 67.23. I think that's pretty solid level there. But again, if it plays, I would be looking to get out and take profits around 67.65 or 67.60 for that matter. So that's the way it's looking right now on the daily time frame. So now we're going to move on to the 4-hour time frame. And as you guys know, I'm always talking about how our edge is in the edges. And right now, like I spoke about before, I have no untested levels below us that are really able to lean on. We have only significant tested levels below us. And above us, I only have an untested 4-hour at 70.1925. This would be the exact same level that I told you guys on SPX up here, the daily at 69.7775. So we're going to keep an eye on if this level plays. Again, if this level plays, very similar to SPX, if it gets below 04, we could see a lot of continuation lower and ultimately 89. But 89 is going to be our big above below pivot, guys. Keep an eye on 89 this week for above below. If we cannot get above this level, she is coming down. And if we get back above it and come below, she is coming down. Okay, so yes, can we play all these levels here and sweep for little pops? Absolutely. But truly nothing is untested. I just wanted to point that out. Like even we have this massive wick low here, and we have the 50-day moving average. Can they move down here and play this and squeeze back up? Of course they can. But that is not right now, in my opinion, a high probability trade, not coming off something untested, knowing all this area is wiped. One of the things I do want to show you as well is right now, like I said, our edge is in the edges. And looking at the profile right now, just on the daily profile, we have this massive daily range from, I think this was Thursday, and then Friday, we sat right back in Friday's value area. We basically balanced inside Friday's value area. We not only have overlapping values, but overlapping point of controls. This tells me right away that we have no edge at our current location. Okay, we have a market inefficiency all the way up here to 70.19 to clean up these singles. And guess where that's at? That's right. It's right here at our untested 4-hour. Okay, so a cleanup up there is absolutely possible if they want to make that move. But right now, we really have no edge out in this particular area. In my opinion, this is a sit on the hands moment until we can get something a little bit more clear. Now, like I was telling you, there is a level to play lower. We actually have a couple that are okay. My preferred favorite right now, 68.67. This is a top-down 4-hour. If we come down here and play 68.67 and get back above the 68.83, we can potentially squeeze back higher, but we would need to look to take profits around 69.03, as this was the massive spot that took us up 100 points. The next big daily is the 69.12. And if we make it above the 69.12, we can go much higher. But that remains to be seen. The only reason I think this can play is this is still the leg up, and a nice little sweep play and a reclaim of that weekly may shift some momentum here. But again, if we get below 03, we have a serious problem. And if we get below 83, what does that say right there? Bad below. There is a reason for that. So the last untested level I have on the 4-hour side is 68.24. This is the 4-hour untested leg tip that goes up. This might play, but it might only play to 39 or even 57 at the very most. I would be very concerned about taking this spot only because, you know, once we're under 83 and we underneath this support at 67, we really shift a lot of favor in the favor of the Bears, excuse me. Now, the one thing I do like about the 24 is we have the 100-day moving average right here. There'll be some CTAs and other people looking at that, buying that. So that might warrant a nice little reaction. So I don't want to count this level out, but I just, in terms of high probability trades, I'm sure it'll play, but it may only play for about 15 or 18 points, so be cautious. The real play is down here lower at 67.94, which is our current leg up. So that is it for ES, guys. I have now talked about SPX, Bitcoin, ES. We have covered all bases. You guys should be straight for next week. Keep an eye on the headlines. It's going to be really interesting. Bitcoin really has my attention. When I saw it today, I was like, whoa, hang on one second. this is a big indicator, and the simple fact that everything we have below us right now is tested, that has also very much has my attention. Again, like I said, we haven't lost on the higher time frame, but it's got to happen sometime. And right now, there really is nothing much to play for support. Just know that right now, given our current location, if we were to open exactly where we are right now, there is no edge. Okay, our edge is in the edges. Remember that and believe it, because that is how it works. Okay, so I will see you guys on Monday for the post-market breakdown at 5. And my trade plan holders, I will see you Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. to get that trade plan out to you pronto. And now is your last chance to get the 30-day plans, so the free plans for the trade plans, if you use the link below. Put your email in there. I'll get you taken care of. And that's it. Guys are checking off of these free plans, and the people who are paying are loving it. I get compliments constantly. It's time for you to be a part of those people who are trading with a professional trade plan by a professional trader. I will see you guys soon, and ciao. Have a great weekend. Cheers.